Hey all, Zach Lokes. Here is the second part of the video series on building permabeds from scratch. We understand that we're going to kill off the grass using a poly tarp and that we can weigh it down in many different types of ways, whether hay bales, row bags, local soil, sand, or wood chips. And then we can even plant a squash or a spreading, sprawling, vining annual through the weed barrier or the poly tarp as a way of kind of holding the place and having production and beauty from that area while the grass is being killed off. The next stage comes when we've seen that all of the ground cover is killed off. We have a bare piece of soil. One of the benefits of this method is that if you have a nice square piece of poly tarp, which again can be sourced from many different ag supply and farm supply stores, you're going to find that you have a nice squared killed patch of land with nice squared edges where it meets the lawn or the rest of the field. This is a great way to start to line up many permabeds, but we always start with the first one, which can be on the edge of that squared off piece of land. Maybe you've just killed out one long strip that's 4 or 5 feet by 15, 20, 30, 100 feet, or maybe you've killed off a large enough area to have multiple permabeds in series. If we take that first bed, we're going to come in here and start to develop garden soil. Now, it takes many years to make great garden soil, and that's why it's worth taking the steps now to prepare the ground to be great garden soil after years of growing in it and nurturing it. The first thing to do is to loosen the soil. We want to loosen the soil so that we're able to have deeper root penetration as well as raise the bed up. You can loosen the soil with a shovel, and of course an ergonomic shovel is best. You can see a recent article I wrote on hobbyfarm.com about some of the best shovels and some of the best small tools to use. After you've loosened it with a shovel, you could also use a broad fork though. You're going to find that the soil is in big chunks if it's clay, or in looser piles if you have a sandy or a sandy loam soil. Now is the time to really take a look at your soil and analyze it. Is your soil compacted from walking on it, from tractors? Is it a texture that is going to be agreeable to garden vegetables? Now, most vegetables like a loam soil. And that's because loam is a word that really means a balance of the different textures, sand, silt, and clay. So if you want to take a soil sample and send it to a lab, you can, and this is going to yield you not only information about the texture of your soil, sand, silt, and clay, but how well the soil drains, as well as the organic matter in the soil. And you can get a profile of the macronutrients, those primary nutrients, like nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus, as well as a slew of micronutrients, which are also critical for crop growth. But if you want to get started with just getting a sense of what type of soil you have, is it more clay, more sand, or is it a nice balanced loam, you can do so with simple hand tests or field tests. And one of those field tests is to take a bit of soil in your hand and to hold it and squeeze it. And if you squeeze the soil and it actually leaves a bit of a shape in your hand or a cast, you can see that it has quite a bit of clay content. On the other hand, if you open your hand and the soil just starts to fall through your fingers, you have a very sandy soil because it's not holding any sort of form at all. On the other hand, you may find that it's actually somewhere in between. It's a bit crumbly, it's taking on some shape from you squeezing it, but it's also kind of falling apart. That's more of a loam soil. And we can amend our soil by adding, of course, sand if it's very clay rich, but we can also always dedicate an amendment period here to putting in something that is high in organic matter as well as a good amount of fertility. This next video coming up here is going to look at how to fertilize ahead of time to maximize your garden yield for many, many years to come. Stay tuned for more videos on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn as I begin to show more about the permabed system and how to maximize food security in your homes, your homesteads, your farms, and public spaces.